Today's headliner, Alan Dershowitz, Harvard Law Professor Emeritus and author of The Case Against Impeaching Trump. He joins us now. Professor Dershowitz, good to have you on the program. Good to have you as our headliner this morning.
Thank you.
Good morning to you. So what are you optimistic at this point that this confirmation process, that Kavanaugh will be ultimately confirmed?
Well, I would hope we could get politics out of the confirmation process. We should be confirming the most qualified people in the country without regard to political benefit, political gain. I hate the idea that we're going to see senators in swing states or senators in red states who are running for election. That's not the way the framers contemplated justices being nominated to the Supreme Court and being confirmed. They had in mind the very best people. When President Hoover got a vacancy of Oliver Wendell Holmes, perhaps the greatest judge in American history, he said, I want a list of the 10 best people in America. And his attorney general gave him a list, and it had Benjamin Cardozo at the bottom of the list. And the president looked in the list and said, it's a great list, but it's upside down. Cardozo should be on the top. And his attorney general said, but he's a liberal, he's a Democrat, he's a Jew, you're a Republican, there's already a Jew in the Supreme Court. Hoover said, I don't care. I want the best person possible. And he appointed Benjamin Cardozo. I wish we went back to those days, but they're long gone, whether it be because of the Bork confirmation or because of the way the Republicans stole the Merrick Garland nomination from Barack Obama. We're today in a situation where it's completely political, and I think all senators should keep an open mind, should interview Kavanaugh, should wait to hear his answers, to see what he thinks of the power of precedent, whether he's going to start overruling cases, and then cast their vote on the basis of the quality of the candidate, not the political advantage or disadvantage they get from voting one way or the other.
It's the topic of the day in Washington. Vice President Pence over the weekend with Maria on Judge Kavanaugh. He characterized it this way, sir.
He was looking for a judge with extraordinary credentials and intellect, but also a judge who would strictly interpret the Constitution as written and not legislate from the bench. Judge Brett Kavanaugh has that judicial philosophy. He has a proven record. We remain confident that before the fall is out, that Judge Brett Kavanaugh will be Justice Brett Kavanaugh.
Wait, I know what your feeling is on that. October 1 is the date that Mitch McConnell put out there. I guess it's entirely possible based on the Republican majority right now in the Senate. But these Democrats who are running for re-election in very tight races now, in states where the president won rather handily in 2016, they all voted for Neil Gorsuch. So how do you work that into the mix of being against someone like Kavanaugh?
It's very hard because Gorsuch was a hard vote because he shouldn't have been the nominee. It should have been Merrick Garland. That was a hard vote for Democrats. I think that Kavanaugh is at least as qualified as Gorsuch and likely in the end to get confirmed. But, you know, when Pence talks about judicial restraint and strict construction of the Constitution, that becomes a cliche. In Bush versus Gore, the conservatives stretched the Constitution to apply equal protection analysis to the way ballots were counted. So each side stretches the Constitution when it serves their interest and reads it narrowly when it serves their interest. What we're looking for is a person who could be a justice 20, 30 years from now. We don't even know what the issues are going to be in 20, 30 years. Abortion may be off the table. We may have developed technologies to eliminate the need for abortion. Gay rights probably will be an issue of historic interest. We don't know what the issues are going to be. That's why we need the most qualified, brilliant, academic, serious people serving on the court without regard to what their current political interests are. And justices tend to change over time. Justice Souter changed over time. Earl Warren, William Brennan, they all changed. And Felix Frankfurter started out as a liberal, became a conservative. So you never know what a justice is going to look like 20 or 30 years down.
Is Kavanaugh confirmed, yes or no?
Yes. Oh, I have no doubt that Kavanaugh will be confirmed, and I think it won't even be that close a vote. He'll get 54 or 55 votes, I think, because the president selected well. If he had picked Barrett, if he had picked somebody far less qualified who has strong ideological views, it would be a closer vote. But I think Kavanaugh has extraordinary experience, and he's very well thought of. He taught at Harvard. The students loved him. Many of the students, both liberals and conservatives, wrote a petition supporting him. So I think unless something comes up that we're not aware of, I'm pretty sure.
Well, the president and his team are certainly optimistic that he will be ultimately confirmed. Meanwhile, Michael Cohen, the president's former lawyer, is still big time in the news. You see the headlines everywhere. Rudy Giuliani is still going after him, and here's one of his latest about recording the client and the offense. Watch.
I found out, as everyone else did, that he was surreptitiously recording his clients, which is a disbarable offense. Obviously, I knew that. I would never have said he was a reputable lawyer. I'd have said he was a scoundrel.
So, Alan, Rudy Giuliani continues to take aim at Michael Cohen's credibility.
Well, I think that's the play now, because it looks like Michael Cohen is going to flip. He's going to be squeezed. And the fear...
That's
unfortunate. That's a Monday morning for you.
So we'll wait here a moment. Here, Alan Dershowitz. He's up at Martha's Vineyard. You know, I think the weather's pretty good.
Well, you know what? He comes to us via Skype, wherever he is usually. So we're thankful this hasn't really happened before, but it happened now.
You know, the point on Giuliani, and we'll try to get Dershowitz back here in a moment, is that he's done a series of interviews on Sunday and did a few times earlier today. He was on Fox and Friends. He was also on CNN earlier today. Did a long interview with Allison Camerata. He said at one point there were 183 audio recordings that Michael Cohen has in his possession, but only one has the voice of President Trump, and about 10 or 12 at the most even deal with matters that relate to President Trump. So he thinks they've got a pretty good handle on what's happening there. Here's more on Giuliani now. This is from Fox and Friends earlier today, soundbite number 5, shall we? All right, as we wait Dershowitz, here's Giuliani.
Michael Cohen is afraid of going to jail. Now, here's where I'm at a loss. I don't know what he's afraid of going to jail about. He shouldn't be afraid of going to jail for anything somebody thinks he did with us, because he didn't. He didn't commit any crime with President Trump, nor did he commit a crime with anybody around President Trump that I can discern. There are a lot of materials, more than concern us, in boxes and everything else, that concern his taxi medallions, his bank loans, no. I have no reason to believe they're illegal. I also have no reason to believe the government didn't have probable cause to raid him. So there's something there we don't know.
It's interesting. Professor Dershowitz is back with us now, I think. Are you there, Professor?
I hear you fine. I've heard you the whole time. I don't know why you couldn't see me or hear me, but that's technology.
It happens. We're glad to have you back. Rudy Giuliani really trying to sort of speculate on why Michael Cohen is doing this, and he suggests that that this is because he's afraid of jail time.
Well, of course that's what he's doing. Of course he'd much prefer to remain loyal to President Trump, but prosecutors have him in a squeeze. They may have information about his taxi medallions, about other kinds of issues. And that's what they're doing with Manafort, too. As Judge Ellis said, they're not interested in Manafort. They're interested in Manafort testifying against Trump or providing information. As Judge Ellis said, you have to worry not only about squeezed witnesses singing, but about them composing, making up stories, elaborating on stories, because they know the better the story, the better the deal they're going to get. And that's the great fear when you deal with witnesses like that and try to prosecute them in order to get them to testify against other people. I used to teach my first-year students at Harvard, if you're going to commit a crime in America, always commit it with somebody more important than you are, so you can turn them in and they can't turn you in. And that's the play that's going on today.
Oh, my. Paul Manafort's trial takes place tomorrow, opening day for his case. AP writes it the following way. Trump and his lawyers have repeatedly sought to play down Manafort's connection to the president, number 6 there you go, guys, yet the trial won't be entirely without references to the campaign. Giuliani said just this morning, Manafort's got nothing on the president. He was part of this campaign for 4 months, and that was it. The trial, we believe, all deals with financial matters that go back to 2005. What's important to watch in Manafort's trial? I think he's been in solitary confinement now for about 2 months behind bars. What do we look for there?
Yeah. Well, what we look for is whether the prosecution tries to hint at his relationships with Trump. His lawyers will try to keep that out because they don't want him to be prejudiced by association with a president who has supporters but also has enemies. So we'll see whether or not the prosecution tries to introduce anything regarding Trump or whether this is a pure trial of Manafort for what he did years and years earlier. And we'll look to see how the judge rules. The judge is not sympathetic to this prosecution. And I suspect that we'll see that in some of his rulings.
What ultimately will the decision made here say about the Mueller investigation?
Well, if he's acquitted, it will be obviously a blow to the investigation. And if he's convicted, it will give Mueller an opportunity to squeeze him. Remember, he's also standing trial in the District of Columbia, where he's less likely to get a sympathetic jury. The District of Columbia is heavily Democrat, whereas the Virginia jury pool is likely to be mixed between Democrats and Republicans. So they have two shots at him, and they're hoping to succeed in at least one of them, and then put the pressure on him to succeed. Say to him, look, you have two choices, die in prison or testify against your former associate. And most people will take the testify option rather than the die in prison option.
Wow. Sir, thanks for coming in today. Really appreciate it. Alan
pleasure.
Dershowitz, home studio, Martha's Vineyard. Enjoy the sunshine. Thank you.